This concrete security barrier here runs through Jerusalem and hundreds of miles to the north and the south. On this side live predominantly Muslim Palestinian Arabs. On this side, the largely Jewish population of Israel. The 8-meter-high barrier, which the Israelis started building in 2002, is the most powerful symbol of the hostility between Jews and Arabs, which still remains after nearly a century of conflict. The Israelis say that they built this barrier to keep out Palestinian terrorists. The Palestinians say it's just Israel's way of grabbing more of their land. And that's what this conflict has always been about: land. Land known at the beginning of the 20th century as Palestine.
Back in 1917, the British controlled Palestine, and they promised the Jews a homeland here. The problem was, there were more than 10 times as many Arabs as Jews already living in Palestine. And as hundreds of thousands more Jews poured into the country, open fighting broke out between them. By 1947, things were so bad, the United Nations stepped in with a plan. This is how Palestine looked then. Lying on the eastern edge of the Mediterranean, it was bordered by Lebanon, Syria, Transjordan, and Egypt. The United Nations suggested partition. The Palestinians would keep land here, here, and here, and the Jews would have the rest. Jerusalem would be an open city shared by everyone. The Jews accepted the plan, and in 1948 they declared their independence as the State of Israel. But the Palestinians and the neighboring Arab countries rejected partition. War followed, and the borders changed once more. The Israelis took over Arab lands here in the north and along the Egyptian border, ending up with most of Palestine. The Six-Day War was an utter disaster. Before this whirlwind campaign, Israel had been a tiny wedge of land, squeezed between Arab states. Suddenly, it was a Middle East superpower and 5 times the size. The borders had been pushed back to swallow a piece of Syria up here, called the Golan Heights. To the east, Israel had seized the West Bank, and in the south, it now occupied Egypt's entire Sinai Peninsula, a huge expanse of desert. From this newfound position of strength, Israel's leaders demanded that the Arab world recognize the State of Israel.
Last April, troops and tanks of the Israeli army attacked Ramallah and other towns in occupied Palestine. This was reported as an incursion to stop terrorism. In fact, it was also an attack on civilian life, on schools, offices, clinics, theatres, radio stations. This systematic vandalism is typical of one of the longest military occupations in modern times. Even the Culture Ministry was destroyed. The director, Liana Badri, a distinguished novelist and filmmaker, showed me the devastation shortly after it had happened.
This is the administration room. We had a lot of files here.
Yeah.
You can see that everything were broken. It was the best place in the ministry.
I mean, what you did here was promote projects for Palestinian culture, basically. Filmmaking, projects for children.
Exhibitions, book exhibitions, painters exhibitions, festivals, dance, folklore. We had a lot of projects. Now we don't have anything to begin. We don't have computers, equipment, furniture, and we have this feeling of humiliation.
The smell is awful, isn't it? Look at this.
The smell is awful, yes.
This is a bag of shit, and there's shit smeared all over the photocopier.
Two
So they just ate and
Bags of shit
defecated
here.
in the same place?
Yes, and putting them on the photocopy. Putting the shit everywhere, even on the walls. And you can see that we have toilet, 2 toilets in every floor, but they didn't use the toilet. All the time they were making it on the floor or anywhere, as you can see.
We have a look at this room in here. Good grief. Look at this. These are children's drawings, aren't they?
Yes. This is the room specialized for children's work, children's paintings and children's culture, and to encourage them to paint, to let them express themselves, to make competition, writing competitions. But you can see how they destroyed everything. They don't respect anything. They just want to come and destroy, and this is the systematic terrorism of the Israeli state.
For the Palestinians, this cultural vandalism means a deliberate intention to destroy them as a nation. This Palestinian woman knows how devastating the impact of checkpoints can be. Last October, she was about to give birth to her second child, and she and her husband set out for the nearby hospital. They were stopped at an Israeli roadblock where they pleaded to be let through.
ما بقوا 6 7 يعني منهم كلمة ولا كلمة دفشوا مين؟ دفش جوزي فهذاك ضربه في البرودة الثاني ورمى عليه الهوية فعودنا رجعنا على سبيل انه يعني مزاجهم كرايب فما رضوش بدنا ننزلها مشي ما رضوش ساعتها خلفت كانت حماتي معي فهي قطعت حبل السرة في شفرة ويوعي الولد يعني ضل يوعي الولد فعاود لفه بجاكيته ولفينا عن طريق كرمزان اتصل في سيارة من كرايبة شوفير عودنا طلعنا لما وصلنا المستشفى الفرنساوي اللي هو الولد متوفي.
Stories like Fatima's seldom make headlines, and yet many similar cases have been documented.
ليش بيسووا فينا هيك مش عارفين احنا يعني. ايش بالنسبة لي انا شو بيني وبينهم مع كل الشعب الفلسطيني. عندهم يعني تاخذين شو الكلمة كلب يحووا ولا يحووا عربي.
Palestinians try to lead a normal life, but life is never normal. During Israeli military operations, curfews stop everything. Ambulances are denied access to the sick and wounded. Children are stopped from going to school. The Israelis claim this is necessary for their security. If that's true, it's clearly not working. And the security of Palestinians is almost never mentioned.
You feel all your life that you are humiliated. You don't control yourself. You don't control the air you are breathing. You don't. I don't want to talk about planning for anything. This is something that we don't even dream about. Plan to next hour or next day what we will do. This is something we don't even dream about because our destiny is not in our hands. It's in the hands of the others who decide how we will live. How we will get married. To come and live with my husband in this country, I had to take the permission of the Israelis. It's not enough that they took our land, and they are not allowing us to have our own state, but also they are controlling every detail in our life.
Some Israelis have spoken out. More than 500 soldiers have refused to serve in the occupied territories. We are, they've said, like the Chinese student who stood in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square We are the conscience of our country. Ishai Rosensky is one of them.
I really think the real story of the occupation is there in the checkpoints. I cannot forget this kind of picture, 5 in the morning, 4:45 in the morning, a line of hundreds of people waiting, to pass in the checkpoint, and you're standing there, and you see their eyes, the humiliation, the frustration, the hatred. Then you are the occupation. You have all the power. They have no power. You can at every second take their ID, and then they are, they have nothing, because without identification, you can, every soldier can arrest them. You are the man that stand there, keep them without rights, without freedom.
The definition of an occupation is when a foreign army occupies your land physically and controls your life.
In addition, Palestinians under occupation, and this is why there's so much struggle against the occupation, they're not citizens, they don't have rights, they don't have civil rights. They're under a military rule.
This is a particular kind of occupation that's both military and settler occupation.
Settlements are areas of Palestinian land which are selected, and whatever is there, whether it's roads or whether it's villages or homes, they are bulldozed, and then a new town is built on the hilltop.
One very good friend is Rodina Jabber, and she and her husband Atta have land in a rural valley near here called the Ba'a. And it's pretty clear these settlements want this land. It's some of the best agricultural land around here. So that valley has had repeated home demolitions. Rodina herself has lived through 2 home demolitions. They're living now in their 3rd house.
اجت الجرافه وطبعا مع الجيش اللي هجم علي على الخيمه انا التخمت تهدوا ما تهدوا بنتقاتل انا وياهم انا اصيح ما يصير صاروا يضربوني في راسي وكان لي بوكله وشعر هيك مسكني من شعري ومنكب شعري لما حطوا بكيت الجرافه على البيت هيك تذكرت انه ابني نايم في البيت هجمت على البيت بدي اطوله احمله أنا بركض على البيت والجيش بيسحب فيي من ظهري من ورا وبضرب فيي في ظهري وشلاليط في إجري وفي راسي وماسك شعري من البوكلة وخلع شعري. أنا جريت الجندي ودفعته على الأرض وواحد منهم هيك مدقرين فيه كلهم. أنا دبيت الجندي ودخلت على الولد حملته بين إيدي هيك طلعت.
Rodina and her children were once again homeless and had to endure living in a tent for many months. Her husband Atta was even imprisoned for protesting the destruction of their home.
قاعدين أنا وياهم قاعدة بطبخ لهم على الحطب مولع النار وقاعدة بطبخ لهم. اللي رابطة حبلة في التينة خيط حبلة رابطها في عرق التينة من فوق وبتلف على رقبتها وحاطة هيك بتشرب في حالها. يما شو بتساوي شو هذا؟ قال خلص يعني احنا بدنا نضل قاعدين في الشمس تحت التينة بدناش نعيش بدنا نموت حالنا. فكيتها يعني ساعتها كان الوضع مأساة وبشكل يعني تصور قديش ام قاعدة من اولادها بتحرم قدامها. يعني حالتها بالنفسية لا تحت الصفر. في الليل حتى الليل والله ما بنناموا بالليل. طول الليل والله ما بنناموا. يما شوفي مين يما شوفي الجيش يعني قبل 3 أيام اجانا الجيش هذا تصوت من شقه وهذا يصرخ من شقه وهذا حاملته والجيش بقول هاتي هويتك هاتي الهوية ومن دون ضوء. بقول لهم ما تخافوش وبسكت فيهم بمسكهم بعبطهم انا بكون خايفة اكثر منهم. ايش بدنا نسوي؟
Here you have Palestinians that have no input whatsoever in the policies that are made. They're not on the city council. They're not in any of the decision-making bodies in the West Bank or Gaza. They're certainly not in the government. The policies are made in order to ensure Israeli control. So the law is designed in a way, in a very cynical way, to prevent Palestinians from building and to keep them confined in little islands, so that most of the land of the occupied territories is free for Israeli settlement.
These are armed settlements, about 190 of them, spread all over the West Bank.
Settlements are strategically built colonies of Israel that are connected by a network of roads which separate each Palestinian community from the next and confine their ability to expand. They are often constructed around the best farmland and water resources.
They are surrounded by barbed wire. They are armed inside. Settler residents are required to be armed by the Israeli military. And they are defended from the outside by the Israeli military itself.
The purpose of these settlements today, number one, is to continue the Israeli control and domination of the occupied territories.
And the bottom line in all of this is to make Palestinians leave the country. It's a very hard term, I know, but in a sense it's a kind of ethnic cleansing.
انتوا بدكم بتشوفوا اطفال يهود؟
انا مستعد. انا مستعد. انا مستعد.
انا بقدرش هم يجوا هون، انه ممكن يا اما هو يفهم قضيتي يا ما يكبر ما شو اسمه ما يفهمني شو ممكن يصير مع ابوه، لانه بقدرش يترك صاحبه يشد صاحبه ويترك ابوه، ممكن ابوه يقتله. بروح مع ابوه بقول لك انا بروح مع ابوي واشرد مخ ولا انا اجوع واتشرد زيك.
لا انت غلطان، في تعصب، انت من بعد احس هالتعصب لازم تعرف شو ما بفكر بعدين تجاوب. لا
طبعا تعصب، الحين كل التعصب واللي صار فينا هذا الكل بصير شو ما يصير.
يمكن يفهمك يوم ما بتكبر. يوم ما بتكبر خلاص يعني يجي يساعدك، يمكن يتشرد زيك.
ما يتشردش، ما هو يومنا ذاك عشر مش العشر، مش كل لا عشر من اللي احنا اللي صار فينا. ممكن ما يتحملش، ممكن يتدمر، ممكن يصير في كثير شغلات. هاي بحكي لك هم قاعدين قتلوا اخوه، كان قتلوا اكثر من اخوه لك، وبدك تصاحب برضه اولاده.
بس انا ما علم خاص في قتل اخوي، بس مش
ابوه اللي ارتكب الجريمه، هم ابوه اللي ارتكب الجريمه.
انا بعتبر الطفل الصغير بريء.
And the symbol of the occupation is this wall.
The thing that is striking about this settlement is that it's like a fortress. I mean, this is like a Berlin Wall.
Like the Berlin Wall, very bad. We don't feel comfortable. We lived here. I'm here for 15 years without these walls, fences, and everything. We lived very normal. This last year changed all the rules in the area. Yeah. Everything was changed.
The justification for taking somebody else's land is biblical. That God gave them Palestine, and God, not the history of others, is their witness.
I'm here because it's obvious that's my place. It's not something it's in my hands that we can, we can give it back. Not me, not any politician or anybody or parliament or whatever, because it's a movement. It's something comes 3,000 years ago when Moses brought us here, and we have in our mind, we have the dream of building a temple in Jerusalem. It's something a lot bigger than religion.
Where will it end, though? If there's no compromise, doesn't that mean conflict?
Where? Life is full with conflicts. I don't know what to say. I know maybe I'm saying something too strong. It's 1-0 game. We will fight. The conflict is here. We will fight. It's 1-0 game. Not to kill each other, but it's us or them.
What about Israeli terrorism now?
The language of terrorism you have to be very careful with. Terrorism means deliberately targeting civilians in a kind of warfare. That's what the terrorism against Israeli schools, coffee shops, malls has been all about. Israel specifically targets, to the best of its ability, Palestinian terrorist organizations.
All right. When an Israeli sniper shoots an old lady with a cane trying to get into a hospital for her chemotherapy treatment in front of a lot of the world's press, for one, and frankly we'd be here all day with other examples, isn't that terrorism?
I don't know the case you're speaking about, but I can be convinced of one thing. An Israeli who takes aim, even an Israeli sniper, is taking aim at those engaged in terrorism. Unfortunately, in every kind of warfare, there are cases of civilians who are accidentally killed. Terrorism means putting the crosshairs of the sniper's rifle on a civilian deliberately.
Well, that's what I just described.
No, I can tell you that did not happen.
It did happen, and I think that's where some people have problem with the argument that terrorism exists on one side. Your definition is absolutely correct about civilians, and those suicide bombers are terrorists.
If you mix terrorism and counterterrorism, if you create some kind of moral obfuscation, you will bring about not just a problem for Israel, but you will bring about a problem for the entire Western alliance, because we are all facing this threat.
אני לא מכיר ילדים ערבים ואני לא רוצה לפגוש ילדים ערבים. אני נפגש עם ערבי אחר כך, אני הולך לבית ספר והחברים שלי יודעים את זה, אז הם אומרים לי, איזה חנון, נפגש עם ערבי. כי הם גדולים ואולי הם היו מחבלים. תחשוב על זה.
לשרת, להגן על המדינה, ואתה מתגייס לצבא שהוא סך הכל כובש. אז יש פה גם בכיבוש הזה, אני לא אומר כיבוש זה כיבוש, אבל יש כאן גם עניין של, בהרבה מקרים מסוימים, מגנים על המדינה, זה שעוצרים מחבלים מסוימים, ובסוף הם לא מתפוצצים, וחלקם הולכים לכלא, וחלקם גם נהרגים. ברגע שאתה חייל, אז זה לא משנה מה הדעות שלך, ומה פה ומה שם. החלטתי ללכת לצבא, כי אני מרגיש אני חלק מהמדינה הזאת, ועד גיל 18 גם המדינה הזאת תרמה לי. לא יודע, תרמה לי בהרבה מובנים. חייתי כאן ועכשיו אני גם צריך להגן על המדינה. אני צריך להתגייס. וצריך לתרום למדינה, לתת את 3 השנים. לדאוג כמה שיותר לביטחון.
Many people all over the world are asking themselves, what is the origin of the name Palestine, and how come we are having a name that is not in the Bible and not in any history book from before 2,000 years ago? The answer is going all the way back to the end of the Second Jewish Revolt against the Romans, when Caesar Adrian decided to put an end to the Jewish people, that the name of Israel will be remembered no more. And he decided to do 2 things. He decided to level the city here that is behind me and to build on top a pagan Roman city which he named Aelia Capitolina. And at the same time, Caesar Adrian decided to name this entire country after their old foes from the Old Testament, the Philistines, and change its name to Syria-Palestina, the province of Syria in Palestine. And that is when the name Palestine was first born into this world. Yet the name Palestine stuck to this place, and ever since 135 AD, any person that lived here was called Palestinian. Jew or Arab, Christian, or any other religion. They were all called Palestinians. The name Palestinian cannot be taken and owned by any group of people. This is not a name of a nation. This is not a name of a sovereign state. It is a name of a region, and a name that was given for one reason and one cause, and that is that the name of Israel will be remembered no more, just as Psalm 83 had said. When we come to deal with the modern history of the wars of Israel, we have to go back to the end of World War I. The Ottoman Empire, the empire that ruled this region for about 400 years, from 1517 to 1917, was coming to its end. The Ottoman Empire was about to lose that war, and Britain, France, and Russia gathered together to somehow find a solution for what's going to be in the day after. However, in 1917, the communist revolution in Russia left Russia outside of the game, and now it is only Britain and France. Sir Mark Sykes and François-Georges Picot were diplomats, British and French respectively, drew up in 1916 a secret treaty agreeing how Britain and France will carve up the remains of the Ottoman Empire, which they were absolutely confident that will be defeated by the end of that First World War. When this happened, the League of Nations gave Britain and France a mandate to run the countries we know now as Syria and Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, Jordan, and Iraq as part of their empires while creating independent countries. On November 2nd, 1917, the United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary, Sir Arthur James Balfour, sent to Baron Rothschild a letter that was supposed to be transmitted to the Zionist Federation of Great Britain and Ireland. In that letter, he writes, "Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you on behalf of His Majesty's government the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object in being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours sincerely, Arthur James Balfour." The Balfour Declaration was a milestone in the history of the Jewish people and their quest for a homeland here in the land of Israel. For the first time, the empire that controls this part of the world acknowledges the rights of the Jewish people for their homeland. It is a very unusual thing because most of the sympathy that the Jewish people received was only after 6 million were murdered by Nazi Germany. By 1917, the Brits understood that it is about time for the Jewish people to have their homeland in the land of Israel.